All right, welcome back to Orange Bites. We missed yesterday. I said that I was going to do this every day, and after 2 days we failed. But we're back. Knights and Manly has just finished. And what about that game? Well, I'm not here to review rugby league games. I'm here to just talk over the day's news. But oh my goodness, there is news out of the game in itself. Knights down 16-0 at halftime. They get booed off the field. They got booed by their own fans off the field at 16-0. Mate, us Doggies fans didn't boo the Bulldogs off the field until it was 34-0. You don't boo your team off at 16-0. The Bulldogs have come back from more than that twice this season. I understand the Knights suck and they're not the Bulldogs. But boy, 16-0, that's less than 3 tries. Give your team a chance. And they end up winning in Golden Point with a try, which you don't see often. Kalen Ponga scores in Golden Point and probably keeps his Queensland jersey. What an absolute thrilling game. I don't know what to say about Manly, though, encapsulating against Knights who are like front runners for the wooden spoon, and then you lose. Insanity. But it's just crazy to me. You got the Knights fans booing their team off, and then the Knights turn around and win. I guess the booing helped. People are always like, you shouldn't boo your football team. It doesn't achieve anything. Tell that to the Knights. Goodness me. I'll tell you what, it achieved something tonight. The Knights fans will be booing him at halftime every week. Just absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. But let's get into some more newsy news, I suppose. I want to start actually with Kurtis Morrin, who is signed with the Gold Coast Titans. Now, as a Bulldogs fan, I'm going to say mixed feelings. It's disappointing to see him go because I've always liked Kurtis Morrin. I've always felt he was very much... He was a Bulldog, all right? That's the only way to put it. He was a Bulldog. He was such a Bulldog-style player where he wasn't the biggest at all, but he was a smaller body, but he just always came on and he was all effort and he'd just try his little heart out. And I feel like he's a quality player. I'm disappointed to see him go. The reason I've got mixed feelings is because I understand why he's been let go. We have so many good young forwards coming through. You got Jack Underhill, Jack Todd, amongst many, many others. And obviously, we've signed Leo Thompson for next year. We still have Satili, Curran, Preston, Max King, Sam Hughes, Daniel Slicker-Fafita and Lipoi Hopoi are starting to kick on. Harry Hayes, Salmon obviously there as well. And then Kurt Mann. Obviously some of them are locks and back rowers where Kurtis Morrin's a prop. But yeah, it's sad to see him go. And he was like a Bulldogs fan growing up. Obviously, he's got family that have played for the Bulldogs. So it's going to be very weird seeing him pull on a jersey that isn't blue and white. And it's disappointing. But at the same time, I do understand why he's been let go. I feel like he probably, realistically, he isn't in our best 17. And yeah, I guess some of the young guys definitely have higher ceilings. But it's just sad. I don't know. He's just a player that I've always liked. And he's never been our best player. But he's always just given so much effort, and I don't know. I feel like he hasn't really ever let us down either. He's never been our best, but he's never been our worst. He's always just been very solid. And whenever he gets called into first grade, he just does a job. And so it is disappointing to see him go, but you do sort of understand it at the same time. It's not a shock, especially with Galvin coming in, and there was some rumors starting to circulate around it. So it is what it is. I do wonder, does it sort of hint at maybe Galvin's going to come in and Kurtis Morrin's going to drop out on Monday? I'd say if Galvin comes in, Morrin's the most likely to drop out. So, maybe it points at that. I don't know. Let's get into some other news. I'm going to just skip anything I think isn't very newsy. Reporter that Stefano Ikamanu is going to get the Blues jersey. Now, I've heard today very strong mail that is going to be the case, that Stefano Ikamanu is going to get that bench spot. I like I've said it the past couple Orange Bites, I'd give it to Keon and I'd have Terome above him, above Stefano as well. But, Stefano was in the squad and the other two weren't. So it probably would be weird to call in, Keon, for example. It'd be weird to call him in when Stefano was already in there. And Stefano was going to replace Haas for game 1. But, in the same breath, I still think Keon's a better replacement. And if I was picking the game 1 squad, I would have picked Keon there and Terome there over Stefano Ikamanu. So, yeah, it's interesting from Laurie Daly, but I don't know. Is it a selection that's probably going to cost you the series? Probably not, but it is kind of it's not Like, he's replacing one of the starting props. It's not nothing. It'll be very interesting to see what ends up happening. But apparently his connection to Craig Bellamy is a big factor there as well. I think, did we already talk about Turbo to Super League? We did. Seabold says that it's a priority of Manly's to re-sign them both. I think that just goes without saying, though. What else do we have? Ben Eichen thinks that the NRL should play Women's Origin in quarters. That is the worst take I've ever heard. The Women's Origin doesn't have to look like the men's. If we play quarters, that can produce extra advertising revenue. That is a horrible take. If we're changing anything about Women's Origin and the women's game generally, I would be making it longer halves. Let's not change it to quarters and make it less. Let's go all in and give them 40-minute halves. They only play 35-minute halves at the moment. Instead of making it quarters, just let them play 40-minute halves. Are we seriously sitting here going we should play quarters so we can get extra advertising? What? That is such a bad take from Ben Eichen. Give them 40-minute halves, and this is a hot take. While we're on the topic, I think they should have a smaller ball. The other women's sports play with a smaller ball. Women it's not anything against them. They just genetically have smaller hands and smaller bodies. So give them a smaller ball and they're going to be able to do, better kicks and better passes and better handling, that sort of thing. I think Millie Elliott in the past has supported that as well. But, mate, if we're changing something about the women's game, we're not going to quarters. That is just the worst take ever. And then what, you're going to have the NRL WB quarters as well? Why? Like, literally, what is wrong with ours? The Women's Origin is such a quality product. That is a dumb take from Ben Eichen. That's just a terrible take. The Titans have reportedly opened extension talks with Jaden Campbell before he becomes a free agent November 1. Makes sense. I've heard there's a couple of clubs sniffing around who wouldn't be sniffing around him. I think it makes sense that they've opened extensions. Once again, a lot of this news is just like pretty state the obvious stuff. Taruva apologized. He didn't apologize, but he has sort of, in a way, has apologized for the Instagram story he did. I'll tell you what, Taruva can come out all he wants and say he regrets posting that and apologize for posting it. I'm sorry, but that is one of the worst posts in history because it didn't even make sense. It has aged so poorly because Lockie Gavin was offered $1.2 million at the Tigers and is now signed with the Bulldogs for way less, like $500K a year less. He has not chased money at all. So to post on your story being like, here comes the money and calling him money man makes no sense because he's left your poverty club for less money. So it just didn't make sense. I think, like he said here, for myself, I thought it was a joke. It wasn't a very good joke, Taruva. It just doesn't even make sense. The Broncos are set to drop Cobbo to reserve grade with Mariner or Karapani to replace him. This is insanity. The Broncos are an absolute mess at the moment. This is Cobbo. He should be in Origin. Crazy. But I get it. I understand it at the same time. Like they need to make changes. So it's just crazy how much they've fallen off. I don't know. It's just such a basket case of the Broncos at the moment. I don't want to go into it because I'll just sit here all day, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if dropping Cobbo is the answer, but I kind of get why you want to drop someone. But he's just, it's disappointing. Like Cobbo should be so much better than he has been. Apparently the Titans have cleared Fafita to return this week, but he's refusing to play, saying he requires more time to recover. That's interesting. Bit of drama there. The Storm might not be able to re-sign Tui Kamakamika. Probably wouldn't shock me if he doesn't get re-signed, to be honest. Apparently tomorrow they're going to announce Mal Meninga as the Perth Bears coach. So I'll tell you what, we'll get into that tomorrow if it gets announced. There's no point talking about tomorrow's news today. And it says he'll resign as Australia coach if that happens. Once again, we'll dive into that tomorrow if that comes to fruition, but it probably will. But I just think it makes more sense to give my thoughts when it's actually news rather than before it's news. The NRL have seemingly dropped Casey Badger from bunker duties. Respectfully, nobody's shocked. I'm like, a lot of the time you see a lot of people attack Casey Badger and Belinda Sharp as women and be like, women can't ref all this stuff. I don't have a problem with women refereeing. I'm all for women refereeing, But if you're not up to standard, you shouldn't be refereeing. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care if you're like an alien. I don't care what species you are. If you aren't good enough to be refereeing, you shouldn't be refereeing. That's where my issue is. I don't care. Like, I don't care who you are. Let's like, realistically, in my opinion, Casey Badger isn't the best referee. Generally, especially in the bunker, it feels like there's been a couple of blunders. Des Hasler's come out and attacked her a couple of times, which, look, maybe don't come out and attack her personally, which is sort of what he did. But like, if you're not up to it, you shouldn't be in the bunker. Realistically, Kalen Ponga, he's been spotted talking to some speaking with the IRL chairman, the International Rugby League chairman, which hinted the fact that Ponga might be talking to him about switching his allegiance to New Zealand, which would be crazy. Would be absolutely crazy. I'd love to see Ponga represent New Zealand, to be honest. I mean, he's not the Australian fullback at the moment, so why not? We've already seen AJ Brimson go to England, and I think the more superstar players we have playing for other countries outside of Australia, the better the international game is, the more entertaining it's going to be. And that's how it should be. I'm all for it. I'd love to see Kalen Ponga represent New Zealand. As I said, like, he's not representing Australia anyway, so he may as well go represent New Zealand. And I think it'd be really sick to see him represent New Zealand. So I'm all for that. I hope that nobody stands in his way. I understand he played a game for Australia in the 90s, but so did Brimson. That didn't stop Brimson. So there's a very good chance Ponga could go and play, because Brimson also played Origin. So it's a very similar situation to what happened with Brimson, really. Just different countries. Craig Bellamy has confirmed that he's going to stay coaching the Storm, which I'm impressed, because usually every year there's the whole hoopla of like, there's like weeks and weeks of journalism of being like, is Craig Bellamy going to coach? Is he not going to coach? And this year, instead of doing literally every year for the past however many years, that's been a thing where literally it drags for months and months. But this year, he's just come in and said he's going to keep going. So I rate it. Shout out to Craig Bellamy, Portland legend. And like, why wouldn't he keep coaching? He's one of the best coaches in the game, one of the best to do it. It makes sense that he just keeps coaching, like especially at the Storm. I don't know why he'd stop. Speaking of Des Hasler and Casey Badger before, he's been given a final warning by the NRL for his criticism of match officials. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see if he'll stop. And outside of that, that's pretty much it. That's it for today. Shout out to the Knights for beating Manly. Shout out to Kurtis, Morrin. We'll miss you at the Bulldogs. And as always, up the Dogs.